Hello and welcome to our weekly Integral Love Relationship Web Jam. My name is Martin Utschig and I'm the author of Integral Relationships, a Manual for Men, and my new book, Sex, Purpose, Love, Couples in Integral Relationships, Creating a Better World. And the purpose of our weekly web jam is to further the integral relationship vision. And today I'm honored to have Carista Luminare, do I say that right?
Luminare, yeah.
Luminare, and Lion Goodman as my guests. Welcome to the show.
We're happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's very exciting always to have couples on the show who live what I envision and that I can learn from how to create these fantastic integral relationships. And you join us from Petaluma, California, right?
Right.
Close to my former home. So welcome both of you. And if you join us live this morning if you're in the US, and this evening if you're in Europe, we invite you to participate by typing in your name and where you join us from, and your questions and comments at the bottom right of your screen. If you are single and brave enough and looking for a partner, you may also share your integralsingles.com screen name or your Facebook profile name. And we also encourage you to join our conversation live by clicking on the hand symbol at the top right of your screen. And once I accept your request, a small plugin will be downloaded and the test of your camera and microphone will run before you can come online. And this works best or sometimes only in Google Chrome. And please be aware that this web jam is recorded, and if you come online, you give your permission to be included in the replay. So you two have very long and interesting biographies, so I want to share some of that with our viewers. Carista graduated from Harvard University in psychology and social relations in 1978, and afterwards pioneered educational programs focused on the integration of the personality and soul. So there is already popping up a question in my mind, what the difference is between personality and soul. Today, she is president of Luminary Leadership Institute, a consulting firm dedicated to bringing leaders of business and organizations into alignment with their highest virtues and their true self. And that also always triggers a question in me, what is the true self? Because to me, the self seems to evolve all the time. So curious about that. Her powerful life-changing programs bring participants into direct experience and embodiment of their true self. She has developed a comprehensive holistic parenting methodology. So I assume you're a mother as well? Mm-hmm. You are? Great.
So am I. Yeah.
You're a mother too? Lion? Great. A financial program redefining security and wealth from the inside out. That also sounds great. And LLI's leading edge evolutionary leadership program. LLI, I guess it for Luminary Leadership Institute. And your partner Lion, who I know for quite a few years, a good friend, is the CEO of Luminary Leadership Institute. He has 35 years experience as an executive coach, counselor, and healer. He has coached business owners, life coaches, and therapists, technology executives, and change agents around the world. Lion is the creator of the Clear Beliefs Process, a proprietary methodology of shifting beliefs at the core of the psyche, which he has taught to hundreds of coaches and therapists internationally. He served as director of the men's programs at the Shift Network, where he created programs with more than 20,000 participants. And a few years ago, I was actually a guest speaker on that program, which was very exciting. His writings have been widely published, and he is the author of 4 books, Creating on Purpose, which I read. And I think you co-authored that, right? With
And a Data Judith, that's right.
Yeah, it's a great book. Enlightenment, Clear Your Beliefs, and the Narcissism Primer. I'm curious about the Narcissism Primer. What that's about, I haven't read that book. Carista's and Lion's powerful life-changing programs turn insecure and challenging relationships, listen up, into a secure and passionate love bond. That sounds really great and important. Their extensive research on the neuroscience of attachment enables them to transform early childhood bonding styles into healthy adult relationship dynamics. And that sounds to me like one of the most important things for humanity and our age, because what bothers me really is that there is an increasing number of singles and unhappy couples, and that's obviously my passion to help to alleviate that and change that. And so I'm very grateful for practitioners, because I'm more a theorist, who do the work with the couples and singles. And singles, right? That's the important part. Their combined backgrounds form a unique approach to couples therapy. They offer custom-designed couple retreats throughout the world, as well as support through phone and Skype. So no matter where you join us from, you can reach them. Carista and Lion share openly about their own past and present relationship challenges. That's very brave of you. So
Very brave.
yeah.
It takes a lot of courage. Yeah.
Specifically to say the present relationship challenges, not only the past ones. So I like humility and being humble, because I struggle all the time as well. So relationship challenges and how they use their own teachings to heal each other and create extraordinary love, and then of course inspire and teach others how to do the same. And finally, information about their programs and services can be found at www.confusedaboutLove.com. And this is also where people can find the free test, right, that you offered us?
To clarify their attachment style, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So go to confusedaboutLove.com and do the test. And there are other really helpful resources on this website. It's a very nice website. So, without any further ado,
That was quite the intro.
That's
my first standard question, how did you guys meet and what attracted you to each other?
You go.
I'll go first. Well, Lion and I were in other relationships when we met. So we met as friends and colleagues, and actually had a strong friendship. We would trade sessions and be each other's healers. So by the time we got together, after we had ended our former relationships, not because of each other, but that we had ended in a similar time frame, we were already developing a certain body of work together in terms of healing each other and discovering what, this fascination of what creates extraordinary relationships. And I had really gotten into a deep understanding of the neuroscience of relationship. Attachment model was where my dissertation was really designed about how, in this early parenting model, what a secure attachment is. And the neuroscience a decade ago came out with 2,000 studies and 20 years of research saying that our early childhood attachment styles affect our adult intimacy dynamics. So Lion and I were exploring that as healers with each other. And out of that, we turned to each other one day and said, it's you. And there began our own really in-depth, comprehensive, inside-out understanding of how to apply these principles and heal our own insecure trauma bonding patterns that we came into the relationship with and had karmically, and really rewiring each other from our own insecure attachment styles to secure love, and then passing that information forward and working with clients and each other to develop this body of work, which is very practical. And it works. One can rewire themselves. So we walk our talk. We've gone down to the depths and up through all the
back up again.
What about from heaven to hell and back again?
You want to add something to that line?
Yes, the big revelation for me when I met Carista was that all of my searching in relationship, I was searching for the right woman, right? And I found a lot of great women. I had great relationships for a while, and then things happened and they ended. And I thought I was looking for the right person. And what I found out in Carista, not only was she the right person, but what I was really looking for was secure attachment. And I didn't know that. And I was looking for a particular feeling of being secure. And because I was an avoidant type, which we'll get into the types later, but I was avoidant type, so I couldn't be securely attached because of my own particular style, my attachment style. And so once I learned about the attachment styles, then suddenly I found out, oh, that's what I'm looking for, and I can create it. So, and I can create it with a woman who's also wants to create that secure attachment. So that was the big revelation for me after decades of searching for what I thought was the right person. It was actually the right feeling and the right kind of relationship.
And an understanding of what love is. And then we had to do the work, because there's the concept and there's the awareness of secure attachment, insecure attachment, and knowing your own particular style when you get triggered, where you go in insecurity. And then there's actually interrupting those cycles and those reactive cycles and really cultivating the sense of secure attachment, which for many of us, you know, we may be loving in the world, in our work, with our clients, and our partner will bring out the deepest, you know, vestiges of where the wounding and the reactivity is. So we had to do the work, incident by incident, rewire each other.
Yeah. So what was, or, you know, from childhood, what was your attachment style, Carista?
I was a blend of everything. I had a mother who was very loving and had a lot of security until I didn't fit her image. And then, you know, she would shun me in very kind of passive aggressive, subtle ways. And that created what's called insecure anxious. In other words, the love source is there some of the time and can disappear in a moment's notice. And it leaves the child feeling ambivalent. Even when I'm connected to you, Mom, at any moment, if you know you disapprove of my behavior, you'll find some way to kind of leave me feeling wrong, or I've done something that doesn't please you. So I became insecure anxious with a blend of secure, because she also had this incredible capacity to love. And I had a dad who was very avoidant and had a lot of rage. And so I had, you know, a sense of insecure avoidant and in a little bit of trauma bonding. So I'm kind of a blend, what we call a hybrid, but my primary place when I get triggered is insecure anxious.
And my mother was an anxious type. And so, and this is often a pattern that we see over and over again, is that my mother was anxious. And so I had to withdraw in order to survive. You know, so withdrawal became my primary way of dealing with stress or strain or upset. And so I actually loved a lot, but if something went wrong, I'm out of here.
That's the insecure avoidance.
Yeah, right.
And of course they attract each other commonly. They're the common combination that come into work. I reminded him of his anxious mother. So there's that familiar subconscious with all the goodness of what we love in each other.
That's the attraction.
He reminds me of my avoidant father with a, you know, a dash of other parts of my mother complex. So.
Yeah. So for disclosing my attachment style, so when I do the test, you know, I think most people who do a test and they're not in a stressful situation, they kind of test as secure. I mean, I see that in workshops when I give them the test, most people say they're secure, but when I experience relationship stress, personally, I'm then the anxious type. So I'm the one who moves in and becomes more clingy and then wants, you know, wants certainty and reaffirmation and things like that.
Right.
Well, the good thing that we've discovered is that you can actually heal your attachment style. You can change. It's not a fast thing. It actually takes time to rewire the brain. It takes 6 months to years to rewire completely. And it is possible to rewire towards secure attachment if you have the right tools and the right commitment, so that you can create secure attachment out of any other style or any combination of style.
Yeah. And this is I mean, it's not a brand new thing, but it seemed to have become somewhat popular in the last 10 years or so with the book Attached, because when I wrote my first book, I thought, and I asked literally hundreds of people about their favorite relationship books and what should be included. Nobody told me about attachment styles. And I think the book Attached came out after 2010 when I finished my first book. And so in my second book, in my new book, Sex, Purpose, Love, put up the screen real quick, and not to steal the show here, I included attachment styles, and there is a diagram that looks a little complicated and convoluted, but it's included now in the new book. So
Great.
just had to get this out.
Sure, we're wonderful. The thing about rewiring from insecure to secure is that people really need to understand what love is and what love isn't. In order to
Let's start with that.
Yeah. Some noise in the background.
Yeah, my windows are open and there is a car with loudspeakers
Okay.
Going through the street, but he will pass quickly.
Sure. So, do you want to put that what love is up?
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's the basic knowledge is what love is and what love isn't. And a lot of people live with a relationship that mimics their family relationships, but that's not what love actually is. So I'm going to share our screen here. Find it here.
So when we talk about extraordinary
Love is, I want you to show me. My bad singing.
When we talk about extraordinary love, it's not some lofty, intoxicated state, although that's wonderful and often happens the first 6 months when we're in the oxytocin, if we're lucky, it'll last 6 months. We're talking about really a sense of security. People often talk about safety. And the way we really define that is where the feeling of the connection with a person feels primarily positive, where we can rest, versus insecurity is when we feel threatened by the partner. So one has to find someone that's really committed to want to create secure attachment, secure love, and to know what love is, and to really want to lower the threat, which means we have to start reporting to each other what feels threatening. So in this chart here, we decided let's just really clarify some of these distinctions. It's not an all-inclusive list, but they're very common. What love is and what love isn't. You'd be surprised how often, at least we discover in our work with couples, where they're really, have a strong experience of what love isn't. And these are some of the distinctions here. Everyone wants to be understood, the sense of predictability that when I share my vulnerabilities, who I am, from the darker shadow side to the glory of who I am, there's a sense that I feel safe to reveal myself to you. And that, your response is predictable. You are someone that wants to embrace me and care about me. That we often feel, those of us who had insecurity we have love laced with a feeling of danger and kind of sense of being judged or shamed, and that isn't love. That is really a very insecure state.
But we do look for another person who reproduces the family dynamics, right? So if your parents' love was mixed with danger, then our subconscious mind will actually look for someone who will reproduce that in the relationship. It may not be obvious at first, but it'll come up later because that's what's familiar. That's what's family, right? So that's what love is. And so we're trying to make the distinction between what love really is, not just what's familiar.
Yeah, because the ordinary can often feel like love mixed with these insecure states. If you want to do the next slide, if love doesn't.
Sure.
Yeah, and this is
I would
so
really,
obvious for intellect.
Can you go back to that real quick, to the first slide? I mean, I think I would just, say warm. So the first word is what love is, and the second you have warm versus cold, wise versus intellectual, peaceful versus warlike, protective versus defensive, compassionate versus judging, understanding versus critical, predictable, unpredictable, safe, dangerous, secure, insecure, and forgiving and begrudging. Then the list continues.
List continues. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, you're reading out loud for those who don't have the visual. Thank you.
Yeah. And you can.
Yeah, and this is the corollary, which is what love does and doesn't do. So these are more like actions of love. So love connects, it nurtures, it cares, embraces, allows, and it does not reject or abandon or ignore or withdraw or deny. And so you can find out whether you're in a relationship of love or not love by just checking and saying, what's our current connection like? And you can also analyze this with your parents and say, what was love with my parents? Did they reject me or did they accept me and nurture me? Did they care about me or did they ignore me? And when you do that, you recognize what the parental love looked like and what your current love looks like. There's often a very close connection between the two.
Yes. Yeah. And so you heal it. And that's the purpose of, a secure functioning relationship is one where we commit to healing each other rather than harming each other. So secure functioning doesn't imply that we're always feeling secure. It means that we commit to have a safe, conscious practice that when we feel insecure with each other, unbeknownst to me, your simple pursing of your lips reminds me of my raging father, and you're just having a moment of frustration. I need to be able to report to you what I'm projecting, or that I feel like I'm in trouble because suddenly you're, have these nonverbal, even before you say anything, rigid, behaviors that remind me of, in my case, my raging father. And mine's just having a frustrating moment. I have to be able to say, am I in trouble? That's my vulnerable kind of child, primitive part of my brain. And that has to matter, even if he doesn't mean to be triggering me. So it's not about having it all together in terms of secure functioning relationships. It's about making a commitment to be able to share when we feel insecure and help each other heal rather than continue the harmful cycles, and to be able to repair these reactions quickly.
Yeah. So a question that comes up for me is that very often reading dating profiles, right? You see that people write, oh, I have done my work and I don't want a partner with any kind of baggage, right? I just want to have romance and love. And of course you are laughing, right? But I experience it very often that when I had emotional reactions or my partner had emotional reactions, that they said, okay, we're not a match because, we should not trigger each other. These wounds shouldn't be triggered. It's way too, Lion is rolling his eyes.
Well,
the screen froze in the right moment. So obviously we know these kind of like more green people, let's say, who really want to delve in and do a lot of healing and growing and really go into the emotions and things. But more, speaking integral language, more rational or more conservative, conventional people, they see that as a negative sign and maybe the fighting, and they probably also don't have the tools then really to effectively deal with it.
Well,
So what separates these two groups of people, so to speak, in your experience? And what is the message to the people who think relationships should be easy and people should have done their work before they enter a relationship?
Yeah. Well, those who have had secure attachment wiring are more prone to not go into the insecure trauma bonding cycles because they actually are hardwired to feel safe and secure. They can be very confused, though, if they're in relationship with someone who has insecure attachment hardwiring and or trauma bonding. And it helps for us to talk about the 4 styles to kind of give a blueprint of what we're talking about with these terms.
Okay.
To answer your question, first is it's magical thinking to assume that you're not going to trigger each other, because the neuroscience shows us that the fight or flight center in the midsection of the brain, when we have some nonverbal or verbal gesture, we can go into a threat response in a nanosecond, and it bypasses the prefrontal lobes in the brain to be able to stay online, to discern and rationalize and be in a collaborative, communicative win-win ability. So it's what matters is that we do trigger each other. There's no shame in that. I don't know any long-term happy relationship that, hasn't gone through a lot of purification together. And even the number one criteria of happy, enduring, long-lasting relationships, the one criteria from these 20 years of research is that they make each other's distress a priority, to care for each other and heal each other and to help each other through, especially if they're the cause of distress. So if one is judging or polarizing the triggers, then you can't heal each other. And it's, I have never met anyone who hasn't gone through a lot of inner work to help each other, even at our age in our 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as Carista said, triggers happen. They happen from subtle eye movements or facial expressions or smells. I mean, there are so many things that can trigger us from our entire childhood that it's unrealistic to think that you're not going to get triggered or that you've done all your work and you're done. Because every person you're in relationship with will in some way trigger something from the past.
Including real-time triggers, like I'm annoyed at you right now, or I had a bad day at work, or I don't like the news I just saw, or the kids bothering me and I'm discharging it on you. I mean, it's not just childhood. We're all human.
Yeah, and the real key to creating a secure and passionate relationship is that you commit to doing the work in real time as quickly as possible. Care, repair, restore as quickly as possible. It's not about not having triggers. It's a commitment to repairing from them as fast.
And not indulging in the negativity. In other words, yes, if we don't just, in the past, as a counselor, it's like, I just want to have my truth. People would say, it's like, yeah, have your truth, but if you're going to rip the person apart, judge them, shame them, emotionally castrate them, don't expect them to be open to you. You have to know how to share your truth in a way that the person feels secure and not threatened, so they can stay open to you and not get triggered, feeling overwhelmed. So how to communicate our vulnerability is the key, and that's where the neuroscience has really shown us we do go into threat responses with each other, and we have to teach each other what we need to feel safe.
So you had these nice 3 words to care.
Care, own, and repair is kind of my formula I came up with.
Say the care?
Care about our impact on each other.
Yeah.
Oh my God, unbeknownst to me, I'm having my truth and I'm triggering Lion's judgmental mother feelings. In the tone of my voice, I don't even know it. He tells me, you sound like my mother. I feel judged. I'm like, really? I thought I was just sharing my vulnerable truth. That has to matter to me. And then I have to own. He has to own that he's being triggered. I have to own, what it brings up for me. And then we want to repair this reactivity as soon as we can to get back into a positive state, which is important. This is a good time for us to talk about the neuroscience and how the brain and the attachment styles are running the show.
But I have one question before we go there, which is, of course, very interesting, because Lion, I think you mentioned the word shame. And, I think another great dynamic, not a good dynamic, is the fear-shame dynamic in relationships. And a lot of men, they either feel shame to express their feeling or show any vulnerable feelings, because mostly of their experience of women often then withdrawing instead of embracing it, right? So there's this joke that, next week at 3:30 on Wednesday, all men will share their feelings, and at 3:45, women are running for the door, right? And
it's on how we share.
And then there is also the area of spiritual bypassing, right? Where maybe people don't feel primary shame, but they think, oh, I shouldn't have these negative feelings. I need to meditate more. I have to stay more present with these feelings without expressing them. And, if I express them, then I'm affirming them and giving them more power. Like Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now writes, we don't need psychotherapy. All you need to do is stay present with your emotions and feelings as they arise and let them go, and you're done, right? So that of course, is a classical instruction for spiritual bypassing.
Right. Yeah. Really, it's fine to do it with yourself. It's like if you're living alone, it's really good to be able to manage your emotions by yourself. Once you're in a relationship, it's a completely different matter. One of the things I like to say is life is simple. And then someone else walks in the room and it gets really complicated.
Yes.
Our relationship is going to have very complex dynamics going in it. And you have to have a relational cure to the relational issues. Because your self-work is good as far as it goes, but it's not in relationship. So the relationship has other needs. There's the me, you, and the we. And the we, the third point of the triangle, has its own needs.
Yeah, and the shame, that is actually something that Lion and I have worked with his shame buttons, you know, where my feedback, especially if I'm being anxious, I can be judgmental. When he disappears and he goes into avoidance, then I feel, where are you going? Where are you going? What are you doing? And then I start building my case, why he's abandoning me, you know, and then he's going to feel like I'm a bad lover, I'm a bad partner, I'm a bad husband at a core level. And that's not going to open him. That's not going to elicit he's already, as an avoidant, he already has a harder time being in relationship and caring, because avoidants are very self-sufficient because they never learned that being in a relationship actually is positive. So I'll say independent, because interdependency is really, wasn't safe depending on anyone. So it's for me to know what he has in his attachment style is actually the opposite of what I need. And sometimes if I'm not conscious how I deliver my feelings, my concerns, I will trip that shame button, and then he's filtering everything through. There's something wrong with him. So I have to really work on, I love you, pat it with, everything you're doing and all the ways you're doing are working, and not but this is a place where I need more attention. I have what we call a blame button. When I feel falsely accused, there's false interpretation, or it feels unfair because what he's wanting, he's violating, like he's wanting respect. Well, he's talking to me disrespectfully. I go into my own triggers as well. So we need to know our vulnerabilities in our partners and be able to report them happening.
Yeah. So do you have a few words of wisdom, Lion, when men feel shame about sharing their vulnerable feelings, and specifically if their partner is not really receptive to them doing it? How can a man then get through to a woman or share his feelings without scaring the woman, right? That she feels, oh, he's too feminine now, and the woman goes into the masculine, and then this whole mess basically starts.
Yeah. So one of the things I teach men is how to express anger cleanly. This is in alignment with what you're asking. So most of us have seen anger in a harmful way. Our parents got angry at each other and they hurt each other, or we see other people, bullies, using anger to hurt others. And so a lot of people are afraid of expressing anger, and men are naturally bigger and more powerful. So anger, when you express anger, it can really endanger a woman. So how do you do it cleanly? How do you do it in a way that can be safe? And so I demonstrate this by saying you really own it at a sensorial level. And you say, wow, right now when you said that, I've got this vibration in my chest, and my neck is tense, and I can feel my jaw tightening, and I'm experiencing this my whole body is just filled with energy moving in all directions. And it's not about you. I feel like I'm going to explode, but I'm definitely going to keep you safe. And this is the owning of the anger. And you can do the same with shame. When you really own what's happening here and you're not putting it out there as blame, that's you're communicating that kind of feeling.
Okay. That's great advice. Thank you.
And as a woman, it's very dicey when one's work, having to control vulnerability, because at any moment one can hit that shame button of him kind of self-absorbed hijacking my vulnerability because you kind of indulge that you're hearing something's bad or wrong. Well, there is something you're doing that's, hurting me or threatening me. So, can you also have that feeling of shame while at the same time not just hijacking my need to be held and cared for, because I want you to also have your adult self, not just your primitive self in shame, caring for the fact that you're impacting me and that you want to work on that too. So the woman and or man, whoever's triggering shame, we need to work on our how, make our eyes not threatening, our tone of voice, what we call the three nonverbals, our body language, be as caring as possible. And I would really love to go into our understanding of what's happening in the brain, because it explains why we go into shame, why we can't stay in functioning.
Okay, we're ready.
So what we know from the neuroscience is that the brain is divided into three parts. The triune brain traditionally, a colleague of ours, Dan Tatkin, often talks about the loving brain versus the warring brain. And the loving brain is up front in the first section. And the loving brain is where we have the pro-relational functions of patience and win-win and collaboration. And we're in green. It's like you're safe. Like right now, we're in the executive function of our brain. As soon as we get triggered, we go into the amygdala, the midsection of the brain, what we call the fire alarm, where the person is in danger. And that's where that primitive part of the brain, the warring brain, starts to dominate and be in the driver's seat. Like, you are threatening me. At that point, our left brain goes offline, and all our rational ability from up here being green, we can't stay present. So it's in our best interest as couples to know how to report to each other, whether we're in green, in the loving brain, what you just said put me in yellow, or orange, or red, or as one of my clients just told me, I'm in dark purple, meaning she's really in trauma. She's like just in this bruised, disintegrated, disorganized state. And so when I'm in red, you stop. Because when you're in red, that means you're not in your pro-relational abilities, you're in your non-relational abilities. So to keep processing and keep attacking each other, shaming each other, building the case is a dead end. No one can care if you're green when you're not in green or pale yellow. And a lot of people don't realize that. It's all happening in the brain, this threat response. And so we can't keep our hearts open when we're not in green. We can't care for the other's needs. We can't report what we're feeling in a way the other can care. And most partners don't understand that if our partner's in red, it's in our best interest to get them back in green, because then they can care about us too. So that's why these quick repair cycles become really important in knowing how to do that. You want to add to that?
Yeah, I want to bring up this part. I'll show you our chart that we use to explain this. Yeah, wrong one. Hold on. Where'd it go? Okay, well, that's not working.
Sorry.
So the important part of this this formula is that once the amygdala gets hijacked, once the threat detector is either like, oops, caution, that's yellow, or fire, that's red, the cortex and the prefrontal cortex and the whole intellectual mind is basically offline. And most people have experienced trying to rationally talk to someone who's upset, and it doesn't go very far because that person's cortex is not online anymore. They are in emotional hijack. And so part of what we teach is how to get the person back into a place where their cortex can come online. And for example, you can't do that verbally because the verbal brain is offline. So you have to do it non-verbally. So we teach the 3 non-verbal love languages, which include eye gazing, touch, and soft voice. So if Carista is upset, the best thing to do is to say, "It's okay, honey. I've got you. I've got you. It's okay.
Really?
You're safe.
You do?
Not going away."
You're not feeling very safe the way you said that to me.
I understand. I made a mistake.
You overwhelm me.
Yeah, but I got you now. Yeah. So there's that letdown. Now suddenly the amygdala can relax and
you're not dangerous anymore.
That's
Actually,
right.
the words also count. I want to just add that. It's the words and the 3 nonverbals. If they're incoherent, which I sense is what you're trying to say, where you're saying, I'm listening. Eyes and the tone of voice, what we call the voice prosody, and the nonverbals are aggressive, and the words are mismatched with the nonverbals. And the words don't mean anything. When they're matched, that's the golden ticket.
Yeah.
This all comes from what babies need, right? We have specific needs as infants and children, and those needs never change. As adults, we need the same thing. We need to be cared for, held, loved. We need someone to pay attention to us and say, I've got you. You're safe. It's going to be okay. And then the baby can relax and let down and stop crying and come back to their natural, beautiful selves. And it doesn't matter how old we are, we still need those same things. And when the hijack, when the amygdala goes off into fire alarm, we need that moving in.
Yeah, we're in the primitive part of ourselves, the primitive child. And we are until we're not. We can spiritually bypass it. And if we get triggered, the brain is telling us, even though we don't want to be triggered, we are. So then let's care about each other. That notion that Lion said, matches what the neuroscience, it was so shocking to us. We never outgrow the need to be co-regulated by someone. We have someone who actually soothe us and reassure us when we're in distress. Those are the happy, long-lasting partnerships. And so that's the number one criteria. And those of us who are self-regulating and high achievers and avoidance, I don't need anyone because it's not safe to need anyone because they're there. That's what insecure avoidant is. There's a sense of, oh my God, to actually be interdependent is the best part of life. That's what love is. It's a two-party system where we're safe and secure. That's what secure attachment is. Whereas insecure is you're not safe. You don't care about me.
Yeah. So we have a few comments and questions that I would like to share. Bob said, thanks, that's great to identify with one's immediate sensations, and it's not about them, but about you, self-exploration with the other. That was in response to Lion's showing how to deal with specifically threatening emotions, right? And women can also experience vulnerable emotions as threatening, right? That the man is too weak, for example, right?
It's not weak. It doesn't know how to love or care. Doesn't understand how to be pro-relational. That's really what we're talking about. We have the wisdom to be pro-relational, to know what secure functioning is. We trust each other. We're in each other's care. We feel loved and lovable. You're 80. The attachment work says 80% of the time I feel secure with you. Minimum 4 to 5 interactions. It's not a perfect state. And when we trigger, we have a practice to help each other heal. So that, it's not weak to be insecure or to have trauma. I had a ton of trauma, even at the age I met Lion after a long-term marriage. It's whether we're going to be healing each other or continuing to trigger and traumatize each other, and to know how to interrupt the insecure trauma behavior to rewire each other incident by incident. It's just you're either secure functioning or you're not. You're either traumatizing or creating more insecurity or creating more security. That's the way you look at it. You're either learning how to be wise and pro-relational, or you're non-relational or anti-relational. And you need to learn more how to be pro-relational. There's no judgments.
So Lucas has a great question. To what degree is it possible to be non-monogamous and securely attached? Any experience or tips? Another big can of worms.
That's a big one. Yeah. Who's going to go first on this?
I'll go first on this one.
Okay.
So I used to have this ideal that polyamory was like perfect, because I was insecurely attached. So I was continuing to create insecure attachment through polyamory. It fit my love style, right? Because love equaled anxiety.
Keep talking, I'm closing the window.
So love equaled anxiety. So polyamory is perfect for creating more anxiety and more insecurity. And so my belief, and I've talked to a lot of people in the polyamory community, my belief is that most people are reproducing their anxious and insecure relationships with their parents by being in polyamorous relationships. And so I can tell you, as a person who's experimented with that what I was really looking for was a secure attachment. I didn't know that, but that's what I really needed at the core, not more anxiety and insecurity. Go ahead. You're the expert.
Well, I'm only the expert, he says, because I happen to have polyamorous community come to me, lots of them, and I know their dynamics, and I know a lot, and I always come up with the same thing. You want freedom for pleasure and desire. That's a beautiful thing. And look at how much your time and energy you're spending processing the fact that you're feeling jealous, you're not the primary person, you're secondary, you can't be a priority, that you feel, once the intoxication moves along, that you actually have needs and the other person's off with someone else, and you have to, there's a great cost often to the emotional body for that freedom. Or those who just go from flower to flower and don't really experience the depth of healing that comes when you go into secure attachment and are forced to look at some of the deeper issues of commitment, fear of really being there and holding someone through the depths and the darks and healing with them and getting healed yourself. And we have no judgment. I mean, I have many friends, clients, colleagues, that this is their path, and everyone gets to choose what they want to be working on. And Lion and I recently, out of me working with a number of these couples in a row and saying, there's such a cost to this freedom. It's just amazing, in terms of sustainability of connection. And I said, do you know of anyone? Because we have a lot of friends who practice, and we know the kings and queens in the Bay Area of polyamory. Do you know of anyone that really has had long-lasting success with open relationships? And we came up with one person. And one person, and we know a lot of really awake people, really integral-based awake people. So it's rare, and it can happen, and it's whatever you want to be working on, whatever your path is. So yes, you can have secure functioning with open relationships. The key is that most open relationships aren't working with secure functioning principles to keep the threat low and the sense of security high. So if they understand some of the principles, they're going to have more of a positive experience for their bonding system. I'm not talking about their pleasure sexual system. The secure functioning is about the bonding system. What feels safe to the brain, the heart, gives us inner peace and a sense of well-being. And desire and pleasure starts to wear off as the prime directive in a deep, holistic, integral relationship. It's an integral part. It's just isn't a defining feature. The sense of security, so I can rest and be resting in my true nature, becomes something that occurs with a long-lasting, secure, functioning relationship for most of us. And plenty of people have their own unique experience.
Yeah. So a few years ago, I heard from the poly scene, that the new term polyagony.
Yeah. And I respect those that it works for. Totally.
Yeah. Dan says, thank you so much, bringing together integrating attachment, bonding, and threat, emotional hijack, and brain science, then simple tools to bring us back to presence while in a triggered event. My wife and I are still entering into this after 48 years of marriage. Wow. And I heard it years ago from the Stones. What are their first names?
Yeah, Lion's Train.
Yeah. And they said, we're both therapists and together for a long time, and Hal said, I'm still surprised that I sometimes get triggered about stuff that I didn't even know is there, right? So it's an ongoing, and probably for the two of you too, right?
Absolutely. Incident by incident, and you get into finer nuances, and then we came out of a cycle. It caught us by surprise. It was like, I thought things were going really great, and something was triggered in Lion, and in his avoidance, he kind of pulled back and didn't report it to me, and he was disappearing. And then it took kind of like and then he had to go down and find, a filter. I'll let you talk about it if you want to.
Sure.
That had to be cleared, that was there until we were managing around it. And then suddenly it just, it was starting to define some of the subtleties of the dynamic. And then you just help each other heal, go to the next level. And ordinary becomes extraordinary because we're free from the conditioning that binds us.
Yes.
I've done a lot of work on myself. I teach deep work. I teach belief work, how to go down to the core and find what is the core issue.
Core
traumas. And I was wrestling with something inside myself, and I couldn't be relational during this time. And I was working with other people and talking to other men and trying to find out what it was. And I finally found at a pre-verbal level this feeling of I'm not okay. It was not even in words. I was so young. And so I had very deep processing to clear that not okayness that Carista happens to trigger because she's good at it. wants me to be better, so she tells me how to be better, which makes me feel not okay. Which so that whole cycle goes on. So it was a very, very deep dive, and it was something that I had to get help from others, even though I'm an expert therapist, healer, consciousness diver. To finally find it, to finally find what that was down at the core that was causing the cycle between us. So it takes time, and it takes deep diving, and it takes vulnerability and willingness and help. And you need help at times to really get these deep issues that are causing the problems.
And if I was in the more anxious, we were, in this great, secure, functioning dance, and then suddenly he kind of disappears on me and goes into avoidance because he's insecure avoidant. When he gets triggered, it's not natural for him to lean into the relationship and get co-regulated sometimes, because this was a primitive part, right? And I had the mother at that point. And so I wasn't a safe source. Well, I'm insecure, anxious. So as he starts to disappear, it was all very subtle, and in contrast to our natural way of relating, I'm like, where's he going? Where's he going? Why isn't he, leaning in towards me? And that was also one of the things we realized as soon as he told me what was going on. Then I realized, oh, now this is my chance. Even though I had no intention to be having this impact on him, I thought everything I was sharing was to empower him to be in his king, his greatness. His filter was starting to feel it in this way that he wasn't enough for me. I didn't know it till he told me. So then I had to become aware of how I was sharing. And I also had to remind him I'm not his mother. I'm his wife who's there to empower him, his greatness, not control him and diminish him. So, which
to my primitive brain didn't make any sense because I'm only 2 years old. The king hasn't shown up yet.
The bottom line is, or it disappeared, it got hijacked. The bottom line is this karmic old shadow conditioning. It's not done till it's done. And in the psychosexual bond of a deep, long-lasting relationship, it's like a rotor-rooter, in places where we managed the connection, or we were excited, or had what, the true self, what we thought was the true self. You mentioned that it is an evolving consciousness. What was true yesterday, what worked for me yesterday, what felt secure yesterday, or what, some subconscious part of me thought was healthy love. I'm waking up now and realizing, oh my God, I'm just tolerating this behavior from you because that's what I did in childhood. It's feeling very ordinary, and the extraordinary is not happening. It's either in me or you or both of us. It's time to wake up and become more true. More, and that's evolving. So we can only be true as we can be based on our conditioning.
Yeah. So what are the rewards of going through that? What word did you use, Lion, when we talked last week? The grinder,
I'm not sure your question. Would you ask it again?
Well, what are the rewards, right? So some people may go like, well, okay, so I go through all this painful processing, I have my childhood wounds come up. Why? Why not just be happy, right? And shove all that stuff down, and what are really the rewards? Well, what makes this work worth?
Yeah, if you can just be happy, then certainly just be happy. Yeah, great. I don't know too many people that can, but I'm sure there are people that can do that. They can just turn themselves into happiness machines. That's not me, and most of the people I work with don't have that. They need to process. They need to clean out the old machinery in order to get to the other side. What are the rewards? The rewards are happiness. You get happiness from doing that deep work and coming out the other side and going, I feel cleaner. I feel lighter. There's a weight that's off my shoulders. And now I can relate in a way that is cleaner, brighter, more shiny, because now I've cleaned out the inside here. So now the filter is there, the belief filter isn't there that Carista's information comes through. I can hear her. I'm not reactive, and we get to have more fun.
You can be your true self without the reactivity, and to experience what love is. Because love is a two-party system. There's self-love, that's you with yourself, and then there's love in relationship. And we need to know and want to experience what love is and heal what love isn't inside ourselves and with those that we're with. And some people are blessed with karma where they have this, they don't have that much work to do. They had secure functioning parents, they have good karma, whatever it is, and they don't have to do the deep comprehensive work. Most people do, and some people have to earn it through healing their conditioning.
Yeah. So what I also noticed for me, doing a lot of that work and going through the grind is that I could love way more people, not only my partner better, but become overall a more loving person and have way more deeper connections with people.
Right.
And also I could, show up more, contribute more to the world after going through that healing work. And that has become an important part for me, that so like it felt almost like coming out of the closet, right? And showing up in the world and contributing.
Yeah, and the other thing to mention is that when we're in community, when we're in a group of people, every single person could trigger us, right? You multiply the possible triggers by that many people, the complications by that many people. So you might feel great in your relationship and you walk out in the world and you meet somebody who triggers you, and now you got to do more work, right? Because plenty of work to do, because each person brings up their own triggers.
And it's really as when couples come to me and they're in crisis, or us, I do my own work as well, the inspiration I have for them is, this is about you becoming a more loving man and a more loving woman, because that's what being pro-relational is. And it will impact all of your professional work as well, because we often are embodying our attachment style. And that's why a lot of the leadership work we do, a lot of it, I do a lot of the couples work, right? So it's if you don't understand what secure love is, or how to empower someone, or how to kind of lower threat, and one leads, or does their professional work through intimidation or narcissistic domination, unilateral decisions, it's going to affect your relationships everywhere. So the real invitation is to be a more loving being, and you will have happier relationships with yourself and others. And many of us, our love was wired with all kinds of insecure strategies, defense strategies, to endure feeling threatened by our parents unbeknownst to them because of the way they were raised. No one's to blame here. We just need to crack the cycle of trauma.
And if you're a parent, doing this work helps you understand how to raise your child in a more secure way and respond in a loving way. And now they're going to be less wounded than you are.
And acting out like
Yeah, it's interesting. Dan Siegel says that they now have researched that basically the attachment style gets handed down from generation to generation. So they see this repetitive pattern. And that's, a lot of people learn about it when it's too late in a way. So it's good that
we have two parents. We have two parents, so we're going to have a different attachment style to each parent, right? So most of us are hybrids. If both parents are secure, you're going to be secure. If you have an insecure, anxious parent, like I did, a mother that was very anxious, I became avoidant. And so an avoidant parent would cause a child to become anxious quite often. So there's kind of a repeated pattern that goes anxious, avoidant, anxious, avoidant, anxious, avoidant, but you have both lines, both the father's and mother's lines. So you're a combination of many patterns throughout history.
Yeah. Some people adopt and mimic their parents' attachment style as well. So if you have an anxious parent and you kind of interject that parent's way of relating, you can also become anxious. It's to know the distinctions of whether when you're anxious, you're more the pursuer. What you're anxious about is the feeling abandoned, of losing the connection. Right. Yes. And the avoidant is more like, oh my God, the relationship connection feels threatening. Having the connection is actually, I got to get away from it. I go into withdrawal to be able to self-regulate myself, and I become very non-relational, but at least I'm safe. I'm not feeling, the danger of the connection, the anxious. So we call it anxious pursuer the research calls it anxious pursuer. We pursue, knock, knock, knock. You're abandoning me. We get more frantic. And the avoidant is more like, you're a danger. You're flooding me. I gotta get away. I'm like a submarine. I'll go down, and the anxious will be like an airplane. I'm gonna go up and go after you. And so the avoidant, when you have an anxious and avoidant, the avoidant gets flooded by that pursuit, and the anxious gets triggered by the withdrawal. It's like, oh my God, you are abandoning me, and they get more anxious. So when we have those two opposite styles in even parents, children, or partners, then we need to know what the other style needs to be able to become more, moved more towards us. So when Lion needs space, I have to give it to him. How he takes space is going to make a difference whether I'm going to be anxious or not. So what are the things you say to me when you need space?
Yeah, right. So what I learned was that I actually have to go counterintuitive. My intuition is to leave. And so one of the things I learned is I have to go counter to my desire to leave and actually approach. So I lean in and I say, I've got you when I want to get out of here. That's part of the rewiring. And also when I do need space, what I found out from Carista is that when I just said, bye, I gotta leave, I gotta get out of here, then that leaves her more anxious. So if I care about that, then I will say, look, I need some space. I need 20 minutes, and then I'll come back.
You're going to come back?
Reconnect. Yes.
Okay, I'll give you all the space you need.
Yeah. So that was key for me to learn, and for us to learn that I needed to take her into consideration when I leave, when I need space, because sometimes I need space.
And that was hard. That was hard for him because being pro-relational wasn't natural. It's just, I will take care of myself when I'm threatened. And so when he tells me when he's coming back, and if he's got enough resources, he's not totally hijacked, he's in yellow, and he's kind of got his executive function, and he can even be more detailed. And how do you feel about my 20 minutes? If he's actually caring for his choice for space, if he's got enough resources when he's triggered, and I'd be like, oh, I can give you 20 minutes, but I can't go to sleep, without at least us having some connection, because I won't sleep all night. So 20 minutes is it. And then if you need more time, text me. But the 20 minutes is spent not just going deeper in bed and getting all, it's actually using that time to get himself back in green, to self-regulate, do whatever practices he needs and whatever practices I need to get out of the primitive warring brain, be adults, take the walk, drink the, smoothie, do whatever you need to do about nature, come back and say, okay. And we come back and go, are you ready to reset? With the intention, both are going to be as green as we can muster. And if whoever can get in green first leads the bid, and we never deny the bid. So let's say he comes back and he goes, okay, let's reset. Are you ready? And I go, no, I'm still in orange. Like, I'm still really upset what you said. It really hurt my feelings. And then if he's in green, even if I'm in orange, it's in his best interest to get me back to green, because then I'll be able to care for him. So what might you do if I said I'm still having a hard time?
Oh, I get it. I get it. I care. I care that you're here. What can I do to? What can I do to help?
He's soothing me. Now I can get over my anxiety and realize my ally is back rather than my enemy. Okay, that's all I need. Just feeling you in your heart.
Good. Now I'm out of here again.
So how he takes space is what we're saying. How he takes space will make a difference. If I feel like he's caring for me and he leaves connected and lets me know when he's coming back, he can have all the space in the world as long as he cares, as best he can. And then I want to give him the space. And as long as I know he's going to come back to connect again, then I'm not going to indulge in feeling abandoned subconsciously. And he needs to care for my need for reassurance.
So speaking of being out of here, we're a few minutes over. Do you have a few more minutes to give quick answers to a few questions? How do you see, that's Jocelyn asks, how do you see the role of a community in supporting your relationship? To what extent can a healthy relationship grow with just the two of you?
You want to answer that?
Sure. Community, what Buddha called the Sangha, right? The Sangha, the community of awakening is really important, because we all fall asleep at times. We all fall into our old patterns. And so having community around you that is an awakening community, people could say, hey, you're out of line. Like if a couple's in a pattern and a third party can say, you guys are really not functioning securely, can we come and support you in that? So that's the positive side. The negative side is if there's a third party threat. If someone sees that you're in danger and they come in and they start seducing you, or like, oh, there's an opportunity to come in and
take
advantage or split the person apart. That's the negative side of community, because there are third party threats to any relationship. It can be work. You know, I overwork, and that's a third party threat. It can be a child, it can be another person, it can be money, finances, anything. But that has anything.
Yeah, I mean, Lion just role modeled this last sequence we went through where he wasn't conscious. He didn't come towards me because I was the projection of me of, you know, the interjected negative mother was the problem. So he actually went to his men's groups and, you know, some of the people in his community who have wisdom, who are our cheerleaders, who want, you know, who are want us to succeed. And then he could be vulnerable and get the feedback and bring it back to me. So that's an advantage of when it works versus someone who's not, if, you know, really supporting us owning, caring, repairing, going into deeper, secure functioning would be less supportive for what we want.
Yeah. So Bob is asking if this is taped. Yes. And you will get an email with the link to my YouTube channel where this conversation and all the other conversations are. Teresa asks, do you recommend the book Wired the Love?
Yeah.
Maybe Wired to Love? I don't know.
Yes, Wired for Love. Colleagues
Wired for Love.
And Tatkin, I've taken all his advanced trainings, and we are colleagues. And it's the #1 book that I actually tell my clients to read. We're right now in the middle of writing our own book, and we have some teleseminars on the subject. But Stan's book gives a real vision for kind of a practical vision of what we're saying, what secure functioning looks like.
Yeah. Great. Wired for Love is the name of the book. And who's the author?
Stan Tatkin.
Tatkin.
Yeah.
Tatkin.
Okay.
There's also, he has a Wired for Dating too, which is for the single people. Wired for Love is more what it looks like when a couple is really functioning. Yeah.
Cool. Bob says, thank you for the deep diving into not liking yourself. Just saying it brings tears. Thank you, Bob. A person named A, letter A, how to motivate someone who's avoidant type and isn't interested in this type of knowledge to learn more about this without making the people feel like you want to teach them. That I had kind of like that question earlier. Or is it better to just switch to someone else who is willing to? What should be the criteria of finding the correct people to love? I mean, that's like a very big question.
It is a big question. I'll let Carista.
You have a 2-sentence answer.
I recently saw a bumper sticker that said the only time you can change someone else is when they're in diapers. So go ahead and answer.
I don't know what that quite means. What does that mean?
Oh, that means that when you're trying to change someone else and educate them or change them, turn them into, you know, from insecure functioning to secure functioning, if they're not involved in the process, they're going to resist whatever you try, right? So for example, my book, The Narcissism Primer, is something you can leave around for a narcissistic man to read, but you can't say you need this because narcissism will prevent him from reading it. So the person has to want to change in order to make some changes. You had something to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, there are those who have narcissistic traits, which in our work, we have a whole body of work called Healing Narcissism and Codependency. I'm more the recovering codependent, it's more the caretaker, the anxious type. The narcissist is not the narcissistic personality disorder. It's the one who is self-absorbed when they get triggered, which is more the avoidant. So there's spectrum here we're talking about to this question. If one has mild narcissistic traits, they're self-absorbed, and they want to heal them, or moderate traits. Like Lion, I didn't know that I was non-relational and that what I needed was secure love. Lion has an incredible capacity to love. I mean, he has a huge community of people and who love him, and amazing clients, and a lot of them women working on their mother wound that he works with. And he's got an amazing capacity to love in relationship with the primary woman. his stuff comes up as mine does. So you want someone who says, I am avoidant, like Lion did, and I didn't know I want secure functioning. And, giving them a vision of what it looks like. Do you actually want to learn how to be pro-relational and learn to be a loving man or woman? And if they go, no, I don't want to do the work, then walk. Because to the point Lion was making, you can't change someone who doesn't want to work on themselves.
Yeah. So maybe watch this video together, right, with him. Maybe he's open, assuming it's a he, and then maybe move from there and see what his response is.
Yeah. Anyone can rewire. They have to do the work. One secure function.
Yeah. Dan says, thank you so much, Lion and Carista. More true. Wow. Should you avoid falling in love with people who remind you of your parents?
Because everyone does.
It's inevitable.
It's all the subconscious, this familial, the positive and the negative,
The advantage of knowing these and understanding these parts of ourselves, how the brain can hijack us, how our parental and early attachment style can hijack us. Then you walk in knowing that you're going to be triggered. They are going to cause you to remind you of your parents, but there's ways of rewiring. And so that is the process. That is secure attachment. It is a process, a journey toward more and more and more secure, not all of a sudden I'm fixed and done. So if you have the vision of the journey rather than the arrival point, then you can walk into a relationship and find out if the other person wants to become more secure in their relationship. If they don't, then don't go there.
I want to add a notion that's really important, which is that some people have more significant childhood developmental trauma than others. And so there are some people that need a lot of work. I'm the healer I am today with the skill set I have because I had very complex trauma and all kinds of abuse and all kinds of, complexity with also loving parents who were really unfortunately very wounded, and my own karma I came in with and how I played out with men. And so it's not about, and I have another friend, she's happy all the time. She's got partners who are very tormented, and she's got this capacity to love them. And she had such secure functioning with both parents. She can't deal with the trauma people I deal with. I can understand them because I've been through it and out the other side. Those of us who have had trauma, we have a different path, and we need partners that are either aggravating your trauma to get in touch with it. And ultimately I got to a point where it's like, wait a minute, I need someone who will help me heal it, not just aggravate it, where I'm recapitulating without any movement. But some of us have more complex work to do than others. And there's no shame in that. Just find someone who will help you heal and not make it worse.
Yeah, that was my intuition too, only move into that kind of attraction if the other person is willing then, to own their own triggers and to work with you with healing yours. Otherwise, it just becomes a one-way street, right?
Then you're just in trauma recapitulation, reinforcing the trauma bonding. On our website, theconfusedaboutLove.com, we have a free love style profile. It gives a 6-page descriptor of these different 4 love styles, including the trauma bonding, which is kind of on top of the insecure, anxious, insecure, avoidance. Some people have what's called trauma bonding. When they get triggered, they go into such a disorganized reaction. It's disproportionate to what's happening, where the other person feels scary and really threatening, sometimes because they are, sometimes because that's what it's, in childhood. And that someone who has a lot of trauma attachment, it's extra work to be in relationship with that partner, and you need someone who really cares, and it can be someone who's secure functioning or someone working themselves.
So a bit of my strategy when I get to know somebody new is to ask if they're open, to do an attachment style test like you offer. Are they open to do an Enneagram test, the love language? Are they interested in self-exploration? If they say, oh no, I don't want to have all the, they're not interested in any kind of these self-explorations, then I say, well, then I'm not interested in you because, I want to know you on this level and I want to relate on this level. And women who say, yes, oh, that's actually great, a guy who's interested in that stuff, that's a good indicator for me that there is somebody who's
Yeah.
then also open to the
And
work and
there-
ask, have you done therapy and things like that.
and,
Bob says, pardon?
and they want to do couples work if you're in crisis and you can't crack the code yourself. Even those of us
Right.
who train, who teach this stuff,
Mhm.
need help sometimes. We get caught in the projection. So they're humble. That's one of my first questions when I used to date. Do you work on yourself? Do you do therapy? Are you open to get work with healers if you get stuck? If you don't,
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah. Bob says the omnipresent image of everyone else's happiness terroristically condemns everyone's misery to silence comes from Guy Debord.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing my notes anymore. Anyway, Bob there. Great. Crack the cycle of trauma. Great phrase, Dan says.
Yo.
And Bob, and then we're at the top here. Is there a pattern of attracting the other as a way for us to see it as a sign of healing, as if the universe wants to use sexuality as a way to heal, as if the universe really wants us to heal and uses sexual attraction as a trigger?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I believe is that we are on a healing path, that we are an evolving path that's integral, right? That everything's evolving, and that we're evolving toward wholeness and healing. And so we're going to encounter people who trigger our wounds so that we can work them. Now, if they just keep triggering the wound and keep triggering the wound and keep triggering the wound, that's not so great. But if you're working it and working it and working it, then evolving toward more and more love, more and more healing, more and more good relationships.
And the sexual connection is often the magnetic pull that actually, unless you're in the sexual connection brings up the unconscious attachment, whereas a work partner may not, or a brother or sister, because often those of us who have our sexuality and our heart or need to be loved, connected, if we open up in those precious parts of our sexuality, and then we expect the person to hold our heart, and that person doesn't hold our heart in a way to feel safe and cared for, then all the attachment issues will come up. But often sexuality, especially if it's good, will keep us in the relationship, because it's kind of a place where also people feel loved and connected. And people often who aren't pro-relational can really express their vulnerability in that state. And we have to be able to carry that intensity and that intimacy in the emotional heart center out of bed, or there's this incongruency that will occur that is what often creates the drama with couples. So it's an and both.
There's one more factor about that. And one of my teachers said, as soon as you're naked with another person, you're instantly an infant with your mother. So that's scary. It's like
the primal bond,
the
need to be loved, to be cared for, to feel safe. Unless people come with their sexuality all interlaced and wired with danger, threat, and that's the turn on, then will be part of their bonding style sexually as well. It works for some people until it doesn't.
Yeah. And Bob has the final comment. That the previous one was from Bob too. Thank you for speaking about leaning in rather than leaving. So,
leaning in rather than leaving. That's a good one. That's a good blog.
Yeah. It's so wonderful to see you together and how you model, and I really totally get the sense that you walk your talk, and it's really heartening. Is that the right word? Like, I feel encouraged and inspired, and hopefully other people feel inspired too, specifically people who are single, to maybe be a little bit more proactive and open up to a partner. Using you as coaches if they feel inspired, and couples who maybe don't have that secure bond and feel somewhat alienated. That
we work with couples all over the world, and we're great healers for coupledom.
Yeah.
You can do a lot through Skype. Some people fly in to work with us for intensives, but there's a lot of our clients through Skype. I just want to say, kind of to my possibly last reflection, is that for those of us who have had a lot of trauma and insecurity, of which Lion and I have, and that's why we've had to work so hard and are getting the benefits this late in life, It's incident by incident. There's no shame in having wounding and unhealed parts. Just find a partner that wants to lower the threat and care and help you heal, and find your healers that, understand the attachment model, because it's the key. It's running everything. And there are a lot of attachment specialists all over the world now. So,
Great. Your website again?
It's confusedaboutlove.com. And the reason it has that word is because we're all a little confused about love.
Yeah,
So,
that's what it is. That's what's true.
You brought a lot of clarity to it, and I really liked your lists that you showed earlier. So if you watch that on YouTube, you can go back to maybe 20 minutes into the conversation and you see the shared screen.
Yeah. We just have one quick caveat on the mechanics. We just are redesigning and have just relaunched our website this week. And we've discovered that when you sign up for the profile quiz, some people are not getting their results, and our webmaster is sick right now. If that happens, we just learned this in the last 24 hours. Please just contact me at Carista at confusedaboutlove.com, Carista like the car, and just say you didn't get your results, and we're getting them on our end, and we can send the results. So we apologize if that doesn't happen. It's a glitch. We can't do anything about it. She gets better.
we should have it fixed in a week.
Yeah.
Okay. So Bob says, thanks, Martin, and I'm sure he includes you as well, or probably even more so. We chatted some years back. Bob says, boy, am I the only me who has questions and comments. This is so good.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you for everyone.
Makes this all work. Thank you for your time and sharing your wisdom so freely in the literal sense, and being so vulnerable and open, because that's really very touching when you see people walk their talk and don't just say, "Oh, I'm perfect and we can help everybody else." So
it's a journey. Thank you for the opportunity. Really appreciate all your wisdom as well and your great work.
Yeah. Sending all my love back to California.
Thanks.
Blessings.
Take good care.
And people who joined us live, have a great weekend, and tune in again next Saturday at 10 when we talk about purpose in relationships. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.